The special crime session began with the governor promising to pass as much of the call list as he could in a 2-week session.
I would do everything within my power to improve the safety of our communities through both legislative and executive action. Today, we continue that process.
The result was a brief special session totaling 9 working days, ending 6 days ahead of schedule. Lawmakers passed a slew of tough-on-crime bills, most aligning with campaign promises Governor Landry announced a year ago, including tougher sentencing for crimes like carjacking, restricting parole eligibility, and allowing teens as young as 17 to be tried as adults. The latest laws are a complete overhaul of Louisiana's criminal justice system, which was revamped just 7 years ago under the previous administration. But what are the key differences in our new system, and how do they compare to the reforms made in 2017?
Governor Edwards, and I want to be clear, with a very bipartisan group of supporters, he got the legislature to pass what is known as the Justice Reinvestment Act.
The result was a bipartisan 10-bill package focused on 3 main objectives: reducing Louisiana's prison population and costs, reinvesting the savings into recidivism and reentry programs, and expanding research-based sentencing. The initiative most notably reduced the number of incarcerated nonviolent offenders, eliminating Louisiana's notorious title of incarceration capital.
It was a well-researched and, pretty long study before they got to the point of passing the legislation. And they didn't pass everything that was proposed.
Slight upticks in crime during the pandemic make it difficult to determine just how effective the initiative was. According to the Crime and Justice Institute, the prison population declined 24% between 2016 and 2017. A legislative audit report puts savings at $153 million. But Governor Landry says the dip in the prison population created more crime instead of reducing it.
As Attorney General, I warned that the goal of the criminal justice reform should not be about letting people out of jail. It should be about how to keep people from going to jail. And those warnings went unheeded.
The crime bills Landry passed prioritized harsher consequences and longer jail times, something Alana Odoms, the executive director of the ACLU of Louisiana, criticizes for not aligning with research.
No, unfortunately, the reforms that were pushed forward in the special crime session of 2024 were completely bereft of any data or analysis. As a matter of fact, most of them, at least all of them that I know, were based on anecdote and based on an ideology of a punitive effect of the criminal legal system, whereby if you punish people more severely, you deter crime, which is a very false kind of equation.
The Crime and Justice Institute pulled data from other states that implemented similar legislation to the Justice Reinvestment Initiative in 2017. They found that Mississippi, Texas, and South Carolina saw notable declines in their overall prison population, and an increase in violent offenders being incarcerated.
There was about 2 years of research that went into the 2017 reforms that really backed up this idea that you don't need to incarcerate people who've committed low-level nonviolent offenses for longer. That's actually not something that's very helpful.
There isn't a way to know exactly how Landry's new justice system will affect crime rates or taxpayer dollars. The Crime and Statistics Institute speculates that if incarceration levels return to 2016 rates, the state could expect to pay $270 million more each year. But according to the Public Affairs and Research Council, we can't make that determination quite yet because we don't know exactly how many people will end up in our jails and prisons.
There are some fiscal notes that were in the estimate of millions of dollars per piece of legislation over, a multi-year period. But so many of the bills involve sentencing that hasn't happened yet that it's hard to determine.
Most of the agenda items have already been signed into law by the governor. Scott Payton, the Louisiana director of Right on Crime, a conservative group focused on crime reduction, says he hopes some of the bills can be revisited at a later time.
I don't think any of the lawmakers have ill intentions. I think they're doing what they honestly believe is the best. But that decision has to be informed on data. It has to be informed on research. And if you're conservative, this is how we manage every aspect of government. We look at what the facts are, and we move according to that data.